Yo, it is DPS Podcast episode number 17. Yo, Slow-Mo, is it episode 17? Yeah, I think it's 17. Okay, yeah, because I had to go to your channel to make sure, because you know I'm very forgetful on the episode number. I had to go pull up the stream from last week on his channel. It's like, was it 16? Because Slow-Mo's really good at numbers, and you just wanted to make sure it was right. But yeah, man, this is episode 17 of the DPS Podcast. It is literally the first episode of the season for the new year. You know, we're gonna just call this season 2. You know, because everything with season sounds better. So this is season 2 of the DPS podcast. Slow-Mo, I got him here with me. We also got a very esteemed guest with us. You guys may know him as the voice of reason from the Brat podcast. Slow-Mo, who am I talking about?
Me? No way. He said the voice of reason. He must be talking about me. All right, no.
Lord.
He's not talking about reason. So if it's not me, it's gotta be Eric Jackson.
Yo. I think it's Slow-Mo because lately I don't know if I'm the voice of reason anymore. I might lose that title.
Well, I mean, listen, man. When you live in Florida and half the world is going to you listen, man, you do as good as you do your best in the time that you have. I will give you that. What is up, Replicant? Shout out to you, brother. He said he's going to be here the whole time because he doesn't have to work tomorrow. So, you know, it's always good to have, you know, him up in the house. Dark Side, we got him up in the building. We got Racer's always up in here looking to slander somebody. You know, so that's basically what we looking forward to. But yeah, man, it's a bunch of stuff that's been going on. You know, not even talking about the fact that the whole country went third war yesterday. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Third war, you mean?
Yeah, words are hard sometimes. So you know that.
Third war.
Yeah, whatever. Two words that don't come out of my mouth at the same time as good as they need to. He said he may not last the whole show. What you been drinking or something? You kind of living in that Enrique life or something? That's probably what's going on. But yeah, man, it's been a lot of stuff that's been, you know, happening in gaming, just in life in general. But the first thing I want to do is just, you know, start it off light. We're gonna let people roll up in here. How has the first week of 20, you know, just ignore yesterday. Yesterday didn't happen. Like, this question does not pertain to yesterday, because if we add that as part of the conversation, oh boy, the whole show gonna happen. So we'll probably dig into that a little bit later in the show. But other than yesterday, Slow-Mo, Ejac, floor is open to either one of you. How has the first week of 2021 been for you guys?
Let me go ahead. The guests can start first. Go ahead, E.
For the first week, I would say overall not bad. You know, not bad at all. I mean, yeah, like you said, outside of everything else that's going on, it's just been normal, like getting back to work after the holidays. But like I was telling you guys right before we went live, I don't know if I did something in my shoulder. So man, it was like I had to not even go to work on Tuesday. I had to go to urgent care to have them look at it, because it was like that crazy. So I've been icing it, and you know, they gave me a little, you know, little something to alleviate the pain. You know how that goes.
Oh boy,
yeah, you know,
a little something. Man, I tell you, yo, sometimes you gotta kind of look at some of these doctors sideways, and they were like, "Yo, my shoulder hurt," and they give you like 50 pills of a Percocet. You're like, "Wait a minute, hold on,
right?
Why are you giving me so much pill?" Like, look, it's just real quick. A couple years ago, I had a tooth that needed a root canal. Had the root canal scheduled, but before I could get the root canal done, the tooth cracked on me, and so it was just like, all right, extraction, pull the tooth out, because it's like it's already in pieces and you're in excruciating pain. So they pulled the tooth out. The dentist told me, Slow-Mo, you feel good right now, but in about 2 or 3 hours, you're gonna be in a world of pain. It's only gonna last you between 24 to 48 hours. But I got a script for you, you know, so that you can, you know, deal with that. I said, cool. All right. He writes me a script, 50 Vicodin pills.
You trafficking.
And I'm looking at like, is that 5 is that zero beside? Yeah, it's 50. And then he winks at me, and I'm like, did this man think I like broke my tooth so I could get some Vicodin or something? Like, no, this was like a real thing. I'm like, whatever. So I go to the pharmacy. I put the script in. They look at it. They looked at me. They looked at it again. Two other employees looked at themselves. I was like, hey, look. I didn't ask for that. This is what they gave me. Okay. Honestly, you don't even have to give me that much. I'm only supposed to be in pain for 2 days. They said, oh, all right, whatever. We don't judge. I'm like, all right, man, look. So, I had to end up throwing them away because I only used like 6. Because it ended not being 1 or 2 days. It ended up being 72 hours of me, going through it. But I'm like, I ain't need 50 pills.
Right.
I didn't even need 10.
Yeah, some people hardly like cartwheel like, woo.
Exactly. I'm about to sell these to the black market.
Yeah, man. No. But no, other than that, man, it seems like 2021 is trying some things, man. It's tempting us to see what it's going to do. Like it's trying us with Dr. Dre news. It's like, come on, don't start.
Yeah.
Don't start.
Oh man, yeah.
Mama Pinciotti from that 70s show like was dead and then she came back from the dead. And it's like publicist. I'm like, what?
I didn't know that.
You didn't hear that story?
No.
Did you hear it, Slomo?
No,
what the hell happened?
Yeah, what's her name? Oh man, why am I drawing a blank on her name now? She played Donna's mom in that 70s show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I remember her.
They said it was a whole thing. TMZ reported that apparently she was out walking her dogs on Christmas Eve and then she collapsed and later died at the hospital. Right? And then the same day, later that evening, it was reported that her publicist got that wrong and she was alive and well.
What?
And I mean, they even had a point of the story where it was like she was on a Zoom stream with fans and she seemed fine and this and that. She did have an issue where she went to the hospital, but she did not die. It was like, wow. That's some publicist.
I was about to say, man, your publicist was on that ooh wee.
Yeah, he was still hungover from the New Year or something.
Right.
Man. It was like, or I said he was in the will. It was like
he had to get the will changed. She got to come first. We got to make sure you keep her alive to reorganize his will.
Something, man. But yeah, but no, other than that, man, 2021, I should say, so far, not too bad, but it's okay. Early. What about you guys?
What about you, Saloma?
Well, man, look, it's been a wild week. I have had currently my wife is under quarantine because she might have COVID. And if you guys, for anyone who's familiar with me, and I've talked about this in the past, my wife is a respiratory therapist at a local hospital, and just by the nature of what she does, she comes into contact with people who have COVID, and the kind of treatments they have to do on these people to kind of get them well exposes them to droplets all over the place. Mm-hmm. So she came home Monday. She was good from work. She's off until Saturday. By Tuesday evening, she was feeling really fatigued, a lot of pressure in her head, and mild coughing and stuff. And she started saying, but she didn't really think it was anything. Maybe she's catching a cold. She don't know for certain. But by Wednesday, it was like, nah, I need to go to the hospital and get tested because she was out of it. So that's like where straight quarantine down. She's been quarantined to our bedroom, which has kicked me out of my bedroom. I'm not even sleeping in my bed right now. But then I'm also dealing with the kids homeschooling. I'm dealing with cooking dinner, trying to keep the house together, and also working. So it's like I've been running on gas fumes ever since then. I haven't really been doing too much gaming. Every now and then, like I try to get some Road Company in, but nothing too serious. I've done a little bit more in Cyberpunk. I think I'm getting close to the end of the campaign. I think I might do a second campaign where I am a corpo. I'll do I don't really care about the nomads storyline, but I'll do corpo. And then probably not do as much of the side missions and just kind of just go through the main story. But I've been really like, it's been a slow grind for me because I've been doing so many of the side missions that are really like, it's that CD Projekt Red kind of side mission thing where everything's in depth and it's not just your, hey, go here, drop this all, pick that up, come back to me with 5 chickens and you know, that kind of side quest stuff. It's like really well thought out and well written side story. So I've been taking my time with it, but I don't think on my second playthrough I will. And then once I get done with that, if they haven't announced some kind of expansion on that after uninstall and moving on. I'm not trying to do 41 games beat like I did last year, but I'm on my grind. That's what I do, and I've been doing that for over almost 2 years now. I beat games. I uninstall them to make space for other games. So I got
games that I uninstall.
Yo, I do not subscribe to this. Get like a 6 terabyte something, and then have your entire library just sitting on it, and you just, you know, almost like how people do Netflix. They can scroll through, never look at that stuff they might watch but never do, and people just scroll through looking at games they own but never actually play. Now I'm like, whatever is installed, I'm playing it. I intend to play it soon, and then once it's done, it's up out of here. Eject those stickers. So that's the move. Although I don't know when I can really get back into it because we haven't got the results of her COVID test yet.
I ask you that,
So that comes at the latest. It'll be tomorrow. And if it turns out it's positive, then I got what I've been dealing with the past 2 days is going to be what I'm dealing with for the next 2 weeks, for the most part, so that to make sure she doesn't like pass it on to me or the kids. So yeah,
it's crazy. That's crazy how you can, like, I was always wondering like how that dynamic, especially like in my house, like where we both are in retail, and I was like, man, like who's going to quarantine where? My wife already told me, she said, if you catch that, you quarantining in your game room. I'm not even, you can't come in our game. She said, I said, I can't even have the bedroom. She said, no.
Yeah. You pick a place and stay there. Like I would have to. I don't even, if I got it, I probably would just be like she is and just be regulated to the bedroom, which is, I mean, fine. She's got, you know, TV in there. She's been watching like the first 2 seasons of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She's been binge watching them. I mean, she's got the Roku up there. Why not, right? So it's just
right.
You got nothing else to do besides, like, you know, take Flozes or whatever they call it to try to clear your nostrils and
you know what,
do what you gotta do. But
yeah, the first thing I thought of when you said that was because your wife took the vaccine, right?
She didn't take it yet, but she's now considering. She's now considering taking it now. Once she's clear.
I thought she said she took it. I was going to say, God dang, how she get it? How she gonna catch this? And she took the vaccine. I was gonna be like, God dang, she would have better off not taking it.
Now, she was thinking about taking it. She was thinking about taking it, but then she also didn't want to be one of the first ones to take it. You know, kind of like, hey,
I don't want to be the guinea pig.
You be the guinea pig. If you still good in 2 or 3 weeks, let me jump on that. So like before she
like I legit grew dragon wings.
Yeah, I was praying because my mom is a head of a hospital in St. Thomas, and she took it, and I was like, you been feeling all right? I said, how long it's been since you took that vaccine? She said, it's been about 3 weeks. I was like, oh, okay, well, you good there.
Yeah, it's so many different variations of it that have been approved. There's the one where it's like you take the first part of it, and then you gotta wait like a couple days or a week or so, and then you gotta take the second one, and then after the second one is when you kind of start to feel the symptoms. But then after that, you should be good in like a day or two. So, but then there's like so many different ones, and then there's different strains of COVID out now. Like there's a even more airborne and an easier to transmit version of it that's like all over the UK right now. So it's wild, man. It's and
they said it's here now too. You know,
yeah, it is. Yeah, and they can't even like it got here from people, and they traced it back to people who had been in the UK or in contact with someone who had been in the UK. But now they got a person that they know has the newer strain, and they can't find any link to this person to someone that was in the UK. So it's just like great. So pretty much it's prevalent throughout the United States now.
Right.
Yeah. Replicate said they're still in full lockdown in the UK. Racer came up with he coming out with the olive bread saying, considering what happened, we should not hold Slummo to play Bugsnax if he hits 1K. Man needs a fun game after all that. You know
I
what?
agree.
You know, I agree. You know what? I
agree.
agree. When Slummo hits 1K, we're gonna announce it right now on DPS. When he hits 1K, we are gonna give him a 30-day addendum to not have to play Bugsnax. So once he hits,
what I was thinking. I was thinking of not having to play the game at all.
No, you still gotta play it. You still gotta play it, but we're gonna give you a 30-day lead up. So within the next 30 days, you got to prepare yourself for some Bugsnax. So you better get a good fun game in there before you jump into that one. Personally, I keep hearing that Bugsnax is a fun game, and you just overblowing the situation at this point. But I digress on that. But yeah. Well, you know what, Racer? That was a good idea, and I agree 100%. Especially with the way that this year has kind of started off with just everything. Nobody should be subject to do anything they really truly don't want to do right now, and that's kind of where I sit at it too. But yeah, man. But yeah, some of our prayers is with you and the family, man. It's
real, man.
That man, I don't know that, especially now. You mom, dad, uncle, cousin. Nobody come to your house to help you do anything, because it's like, nah, man, stay away from that place.
The wild thing is that my mom, as well as my in-laws, are more than willing to come and put themselves at risk to help and do things.
Absolutely
but I'm like, nah, because they're older, and they're at more at risk than you and I or my wife is. The kids are, because the kids actually, you children who get it are actually they kind of like get through it quicker because their immune systems are fresher, or whatever you want to call it. But older people are at higher risk, and I don't want that to be an issue. But I mean, even then, they've been offered like, well, if it ends up she's got it, and you guys are on lockdown for 2 weeks, we'll bring you groceries, and just leave it at the front step, and we'll do whatever we gotta do. So it's like it's good to have a good support system out there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, man, me just work and just trying to get, the one thing I notice about YouTube, we all are on it, and the biggest thing that I noticed is the more I search, because we're buying this house, we bought this house, our closing is on the 22nd, and
congratulations, man.
Oh yeah, thank you, man, thank you. So my browsing habits have changed drastically. Like I don't really look up as much gaming stuff anymore, because my whole focus has changed. Like, okay, now I'm like seeing renovation stuff, like right. everything on my channel, everything on my feed, for the most part, is either something gamer related or something that's recommended from the feed that I'm already subscribed to, or every other recommendation is like how to put a banister on the steps going into your basement, or how to furnish what's the best way to furnish your your living space. Like it's kind of crazy exactly how fast the algorithm turns on you. I'm like, I don't want to see this every day, but that's all I was looking for. So that's all YouTube is recommending to me at this point. So that's kind of what my last week has kind of been, because we're getting closer and closer to that day. And even then, once we close, we're not moving in until roughly the end of February, beginning of March, because of the lease allocation lease obligation we have at the place we are now. But so outside of that, just playing games, getting this whole stay at school home thing with kids, which is, like I said before, I respect teachers more than ever now. How can you get, I have a 9 and a 16-year-old. 16-year-old's not that bad. 9-year-old though, nah, man. They want to ask, even when the teacher's over there talking, explaining stuff, they still want to get up and come ask you a question like, hey, did you know that the sun rose in the east, set in the west? Huh? Well, go listen to your teacher. Why are you over here talking to me? Well, I just wanted to know if you knew that. And I'm like, yeah, I knew that. Go talk to your teacher. Or you'll get up, you're over there like talking about math questions and stuff and explaining math to them. And then they'll come to you 4 hours later while they're doing their work. It's like, hey, can you help me with this? And I'm like, didn't your teacher explain this to you today? Yeah, but I still didn't get it. Well, did you ask questions? No, I didn't want to bother. It's like, that's what they're there for. I'm like, yo, man, this is freaking ridiculous. So that's driving me freaking insane. And then the fact of the new, holiday season finally came to a close. So I finally got a chance to like kind of sit back and just relax and just basically not have to worry about work as much. And started putting YouTube stuff up again. I did 2 videos yesterday. That actually felt really good because it's been so long since I did that.
You too?
You did too?
Yeah, I did too, man. And like you actually watched your video, so like, yeah, I guess.
You said you actually what?
I unlike you,
I watched your video.
You just realized that I
didn't know you did 2. I didn't see your other one. I saw your first one. That's what I'm saying. You did too, because I saw. I watched your Outrider video. I didn't. What was the other video?
What's up, Cognito in the chat? How you doing, man?
What's up, Cognito? What was the other video? So I watched the Outrider one. What was the other one?
The one I told you. Look at this thumbnail. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I didn't watch the video. I looked at the thumbnail.
Look at the see.
Okay, yeah. You're right. Okay, you got me on that one. You know what? While you're going down a rabbit hole on one of these topics we're gonna talk about, I'll watch your video during that time. No, I'm not gonna do that. Mm-hmm. But no, that's pretty much been it with me. And shout out, you got Cognito here. That man right there. Oh man, I don't know what we were slow-mo playing on PC. I missed out on so much banter. I didn't realize how plugged the Iron Lords are on console. Like, I know that they are a big Xbox, console family and stuff, but bro, playing with them, because that's pretty much all I've been doing is playing with them on Destiny and stuff, is some of the most hilarious conversations you will ever have with individuals in a party setting on Xbox Live. We ain't gonna go into the whole semantics of everything that's going on in those parties, because it's kind of too safe. It's like only safe for work type stuff. You really can't talk about that stuff anywhere but in those parties. But it's kind of crazy, man.
Not safe for work kind of stuff?
No, I said it's kind of. I said it the opposite way.
Yes, you did. You said too safe for work, which is like, what is that?
Not safe for work. Man,
how's it going, Mr. Gaming Forte? Are you here to play some games today? Yes, I am.
Yes,
How are you, Mr. Eric Jackson? All right, we're happy. That's too safe for work, which you meant.
Yeah,
not safe for work.
Yeah, not safe for work. But man, that's pretty much what I've been doing over the last week. Nothing else.
Mr. Eric Jackson. What are you doing for lunch today? I brought my own lunch. I had leftovers from last night. You know, the good old wife. She definitely threw it down. Oh,
are we really doing this? I think.
I'm just saying.
You know what? I think we're gonna have to we're gonna have to reverse this whole Bucks next thing and make this man play it within 24 hours and hitting 1,000 now. You have to reverse
very wholesome.
All right, man. So let's move on to our first. Let's move on to our first topic. Y'all get on my nerves. All right,
what's
man.
The first topic today, sir. All righty, I can't wait.
Well, you know what? What's the first? We're gonna make people wait for this Microsoft one because that was kind of funny when I heard about it. Let's talk about a game that
Ryan Landis. I apologize for shooting you. The game compelled me.
The game compelled me to. Oh my god! Okay.
I accept your apology. You are forgiven, brother.
Go ahead, just add a little. I mean, all you gotta do is just add a little bit of lower into it. You sound like Yoda. Say that. Say for what it is. But first topic. Slow-mo, why won't you walk us through because that was a really good video where you was explaining what's going on with Outriders. Talk about how this game is being delayed again.
Yeah, so I mean they never you know what, they had a let me pull up the actual message that they sent in regards to that, because they had a message that where they were saying, yeah, look, it's unfortunately is going to be delayed again, and not a big delay. This is like kind of like a little delay. It's going from what was supposed to be February 2nd to it's kind of wild. April 1st. They even had to say, "Hey, look, it's not April Fool's joke. It's not April Fool's joke. It's really April 1st." You know, it's like, wait, what?
They had to put that in there.
It is wild that they would actually do it for April 1st, which I would have been like, nah, let's do the 2nd, man. We doing the 1st is going to be a problem. People aren't going to believe us, but hey, that's what they did. So the message is Happy New Year. We believe it's important that players get to experience a new IP like Outriders before release so that you can decide for yourselves whether the game is something you wish to pre-order, purchase, or play. I like that. For this reason, we're excited to announce that on February 25th, 2021, we will be publishing a free demo giving everyone a chance to play the first few hours of the game with all 4 classes in both single and co-op, along with seamless migration of your character in progress to the full game. Now, that part I really like.
I do like that.
Because then, like, it really incentivizes you, especially if you like the game, that just is played as much as possible, that they allow you to play it in the demo, so that, like, because you know, if you really like it, you're definitely buying the full game. When the full game comes out, you don't have to start all over again. There have been times where I've played demos and I really like the game, but it's just like, I don't want to keep playing it knowing that I got to do all this all over again when the game come out. But anyway, to continue on, speaking of which, we have decided to move the release date of Outriders to April 1st, 2021, which, if you think about it, if you've been reading this and you already knew the date was supposed to be February 2nd, the first thing they do is start talking about a demo that's 3 weeks after that. Right. You're like, oh, what? Wait a minute. But you're supposed to be out by then. So, but they said, yeah, February 1st, no joke. We will spend this extra time fine-tuning the game and focusing on delivering a fantastic play experience at launch. Thanks for hanging tight a little longer. We appreciate your patience. So this is not the first delay. It was originally supposed to come out, I think, in November, and then they delayed it to February. Now they're delaying it again. And honestly, I never complain about delays, because whatever game you end up getting that was at whatever date it was delayed to is a better game than it would have been if you got it at the date you thought you was going to get it. Period. There's going to be more polished, less bugs, less issues. It's just the way it is. And so if you have an opportunity to make sure that your game isn't a buggy mess when it comes out, do what you gotta do. I can wait a little bit longer. I got other stuff to play. We all got backlogs. It's just that people don't want to play the games that's in their backlog for some reason. But I don't have that.
I mean, if that's the case, I don't get it because I'm always like, yo, I got to get to this one. I got to get to this one. So yeah, when I get delays, I'm like, woohoo!
Right?
Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. Now they didn't actually say exactly what the reason was for their delay, and they don't really get into specifics or stuff like that. Oh, well, there's a game-breaking bug that's crashing the game on 2 platforms. Like, no one ever says stuff like that. Right. They just tell you that, we got some things to finish up, and it's usually at this point in time, this is that post-production period where the game's completed. It's just got some stuff that just isn't quite right. Like you go to a particular part of the map and you just fall through. They gotta get that. They gotta get that figured out. And unfortunately, Q&A teams. I know a lot of people say things like, "How did they miss this bug?" But Q&A teams, they could be like. Usually what you'll see, and I remember reading about this with Rockstar, is that the entire studio turns into Q&A near the end of either close to a launch. So if you're the artist guy or if you do music, whatever, you're Q&A now. You're playing the game, trying to find bugs, because it's better that you find that bug that really could have like hurt the game on release than it gets launched and then thousands of people find that bug, and then it's all over social media, and that's a whole different story. So I think the game's got some potential. It's not. We need to stop with trying to compare every looter shooter to Destiny. This game isn't even trying to be Destiny. It's not an online game. It's not trying to be an online game. It's not. It's in the same category, but it's not trying to be Destiny. Let it be itself. And I think, it's got some potential to actually be a good game. That the dev even said, hey, look, once you finish the game and you finish our post-campaign content, thanks. It's about it. Like we not hitting you with dailies and weeklies and other content that kind of string you along and keep you engaged in the game. That's not what their focus is. So, and I think that would be when you don't design your game around that kind of philosophy, you end up having content that's a little bit more fulfilling. It's not like it's smaller focused content that is designed to be easier to develop and to kind of keep people busy, but it's filler. It's not really like in-depth stuff. And me personally, I am a lot more willing to play something like that than playing the Divisions and Destinies and Anthems and whatever, and Warframes that are out there where it's just like a long grind, and I just don't feel like I have the time for that right now.
Oh, okay. What about you, E?
As far as how I'm feeling on the delay.
How you feel on the delay? I mean, first of all, are you interested in the game?
I absolutely am, because it kind of looks like all the things that I kind of did, because like I goof with you guys about Destiny, but I really do like Destiny. But I told you all my reasons why, like I don't always and I can't always commit to Destiny, and the things I find those reasons and those flaws in. And seeing you guys getting back into it, it's like I feel like I really want to get back into Destiny, and then I'm like, I don't know if I have the time right now. Blah blah blah. So when I look at a game like Outriders, it seems like it's kind of taking, it wants to kind of take those good parts of what a Destiny is, and then you got some of that look of gears and things like that. So when they showed it, I was like, oh, that looks pretty interesting. Seeing like the abilities, the powers, the type of game it is, even though it's not first person, with the third person gameplay or whatever. And then to find out that they have a plan as far as it just being, it's a story based game, with multiplayer and the whole nine. And, you can play through the campaign. It's not overly drawn and this and that. And, that they were speaking all the right language to me, and piquing my interest in that. And initially when we first saw it, I was kind of, that game was kind of rough. But every time after that I've seen it, it's looked better and better and better. So so the minute that they announced that they needed to delay, I'm like, hey, like someone said, do what you got to do. Because in these days, with what we just saw with, Cyberpunk, take your time. Everybody take your time. 343, if you need more than 2021, take your time.
If you need more. I feel you on that.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. Hey, is it just me, or does the movement in the game remind you of Remnant from the Ashes? Because if you look at Remnant and how the characters move in Remnant, it reminds me of, like, especially when you shooting guns, and it's the camera angle and the actual like position of how the guns are held and how you see the recoil of the character as he's shooting it. It looks so much like Remnant from the Ashes, and I kind of wonder. I haven't looked this up because I know you can almost kind of tell when a game is running on Unreal Engine. Because you can kind of see some similarities in some animations, especially from smaller developers, and when they don't really have the manpower to develop their own tools or develop their own things out of the Unreal Engine. Epic has no problem with you using a lot of the stuff that's already been developed in it that they've already created. So, like, say for example, in Rogue Company, which runs off of Unreal, the running animations and some of the the sway of how they hold the guns when they're running is taken directly from Fortnite. This is one of the first things that I noticed. It's Fortnite's animation, but it's just like the character models are different and detailed far more than the Fortnite characters, of course. But it's the same thing, and so it's like we can kind of tell certain things from certain engines and.
That's
stuff.
interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Let me ask you this question, because like Days Gone is built on Unreal, right?
And
did it kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Deacon kind of look like he runs like a Fortnite character?
Yeah.
I think you're onto something there, man.
Yeah. I haven't played too much of Days Gone. I played up until the part where I still haven't got to the part where his buddy in the very, very beginning, when his buddy was getting burned by those guys, and you kind of you save him and then you have him rest and you went to go get his bike. That's where I kind of stopped it, and I was just like, you know what? I really wasn't feeling that first hour of this game. I waited so long to play the PS5, and I was like, I'll come back to this. But I did. That's one of the first things I noticed was like, yo, this running animation looks really familiar. Yeah.
I haven't played it. I'm gonna play it. I said at this point I'm just gonna wait for the PS5 because I heard it's a much, much better experience there. As far as the frame rates and everything.
Everything's a much better experience on these new systems if you got this old stuff.
I hate you know what kind of annoyed me with Days Gone, and some other people had mentioned this when it first came out, and then I really noticed it. Yo, Deacon talks to himself like a crazy man.
He does.
and it's like, I don't know what they were thinking when they implemented that. I understand that it's like he's talking like you're in his head, and I kind of get that, like that kind of voiceover thing, but it's like he does it way too often to the point that he sounds like a madman. He's just like, oh no, here they're coming. Oh no, what we're going to do? I gotta get some.
Oh man,
it's just like, shut up, dude. Stop talking. Stop
that should
talking.
Be an option in the menu.
Shut up.
Yeah, Gregor made a good point. He says when any studio uses Unreal, they share all the data. The Davi Horror in Days Gone most likely is based off of the code of the crew from Gears.
Yeah, very, very
that could be a thing.
Yeah.
That could be a thing, like where there's it's already based. Like you can make your character animations look the way you want them to look, but when it comes to like particular movements, like when they're moving in groups, it could be based on an algorithm that Unreal basically has just
assets that's already available. In that way, if you're a small developer, you can cut corners. Like, we don't have somebody that can actually completely create that from scratch. We don't have
somebody that can make somebody run up the street properly.
Right. So we can just take it from what's already available within Unreal, and that allows us to cut down some time on some development time, as well as get some that definitely works.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes really sense.
What I heard with that too is, and I know we're going down the Days Gone rabbit hole, but it kind of ties back to the Unreal thing you were talking about. But they said there's no car, not car, I'm like a motorcycle, like asset in Unreal. So what they had to do was take a car and like deconstruct it and almost like reform it, like folding it and making it. So his bike is actually a car asset, which they said is sort of probably why it controls the way it does. Like,
that makes sense.
Like the actual bike mechanics are kind of wonky or whatever, but it's because it's an actual, and that's why it had some, I guess, issues when it would fall through the world or do some weird stuff or whatever, because it's being forced to be something that it really isn't.
Right.
You know? So so interesting stuff, man. Game development.
Ain't it great? Ain't it great?
Yeah, right. But,
but
as far as Outriders, it's definitely a game that's on my radar. Definitely something I want to get into. It's looking cooler and cooler, man.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be one of those sleeper hits.
Yep. And I just checked this. It is running on Unreal Engine 4.
There you go. And that's crazy, man. We've been doing this game and stuff long enough that you can start spotting what engine.
What engine is what? Right. Yeah.
All right.
Completely useless information, but we got it on our head.
Now that might save your life one day, Slow Mo. Somebody's like, "All right, I'm about to bust you. You better explain to me. Was this game running on Unreal?" But matter of fact, I can tell you 4 games that were running on Unreal. Did you know that motorcycle and like, all right, man, you good, you good.
But before we move on, well, Forte, you haven't told us what you thought about the game. But real quick, before you do that, I wanted to say it doesn't even matter which platform you buy it on because there's crossplay.
Yeah, it's crossplay. Yeah,
and I think that might actually end up being part of the reason why they're delaying it. Is that it's because crossplay is it's supposed to be enabled at launch. They really want people to jump on it quickly, and if there's an issue, one of the biggest things that can trip up a game that relies on co-op is, well, I want to play it on Xbox, but then my friends are getting it on PlayStation, and I don't have a PlayStation. Well, I'm not getting it. You know, like that in the story, I'm not getting it because I'm not going to go buy a hundreds of dollars console to play the game. But when crossplay is enabled, you don't have to worry about that, and you can just play it on whatever that you feel comfortable playing it on, and still play with your friends. So I'm pretty sure if that's not ready yet, they definitely want to make sure that's ready so that they don't lose people before it is ready.
Yeah. For me, I'm excited for the game because I like games like this. I like looter shooters. I like the aspect that it's not trying to be every other game that came out here. I like that this game has a distinct beginning and end to it. And once you're done with it, you're done with it. So I really do appreciate that all the content for the game is going to be there. Initially, you ain't got to wait for anything else to come out. They did say there will be stuff that comes out later, but that will all be stuff that's just added to the game, not anything that you have to basically wait on to basically finish the game like a lot of these other games of a series or looter shooters are doing. So I really appreciate that. I am kind of relieved that the game did get delayed because, let's be for real, I think part of the reason why I don't jump from one games of a service or looter shooter like that to another is because I'm so invested in one. And then as much as I played it, it's just real hard to just say, I'm just going to pick this up and do this same song and dance all over.
It's impossible. It's impossible because like the way they design this is what I was saying earlier. The way they design it is so that you really don't have time to play any of the games. It's like a second job. So you have to actually have to choose a looter shooter. Well, one of these online looter shooters that's going to be the one that you are going to invest in, because if you get another one, you're just not going to have the time to handle both of them. Even if you do, you literally, if you can do that, you're not playing any other game.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, I always hear people, and this is coming from a person that loves Destiny, and I'm gonna be honest about this. I hear people always talk about no game can be what Destiny is because Destiny has kind of it's going on its 7th year at this point. So it basically has done everything it needs to do, and they still can't even figure it out completely. So, and how do you expect the new game to come in and try to replicate the formula that they had without having the pitfalls they have. I mean, you point a looter shooter to me out that has done that, and I will literally sell you water I will sell you ocean in the middle of Idaho, because it's not going to happen. They all have problems like that.
Let's keep it a buck. And this is not me like hating on Destiny right now. It's not.
Go ahead, because I gotta
be being 1,000% honest. Even Bungie really didn't succeed with this. What the difference between Bungie doing Destiny and these other developers doing looter shooters is that Bungie was the first one.
They were the first one,
right? And they got their community to be so invested that even though they are failing the same way these other developers are failing at making a looter shooter that can keep up with the community when it turns to being interested in content and not having to go through this waning back and forth of here's content, now I'm bored, here's content, I'm super bored, here's content, there's nothing to do right now. Like, no one in that arena has been able to prevent that from happening. That's been their goal. They've all failed. The difference is that Bungie was the first, and therefore they got the largest amount of people who are into this kind of genre, and they're too invested and spent too much time and too many years in this for them to walk away now. And so Bungie's got a built-in safety net, a parachute for them when they fail on a consistent basis. These other ones that are trying to do what Bungie has done don't have a built-in fan base community to say it's okay.
Well, they're borrowing.
We're not going anywhere.
They're borrowing the other fan bases and the other fan base. And that's the other thing. I think Destiny's fan base is rooted deeply in the Borderlands fan base, and Borderlands was on such a hiatus for a while where it gave an opportunity for a game like Destiny to kind of flourish. And like I said, and I agree 100% with you. I think the only thing I will say is Bungie has failed, and most looter shooters, not most, all of them have failed when it comes to the in-game content. I think Destiny has done it, and Bungie has done it better than most because they're pretty consistent in giving you in-game content. It's just the fact that there's a difference between the expectations of what a studio can put out versus what most of their community can do. Because I'll be the first one to tell you, I play it at an ungodly amount, but people think about it, like people like Brap. He is so far behind. It's intimidating for most of those people to get into the game because I don't know where to begin, and I don't feel like the people that are like super invested in it, I don't want to waste their time because they already did all this stuff. And like for me, this season it's been like it opened my eyes a little bit, I'll just say. The fact that I haven't done a lot of the stuff that's in the game. Like I kind of been just playing, like slow playing, like a lot of the stuff that's going on, like when it comes to the abilities and getting all that stuff. Like I only got the abilities on one of my characters of all three of them. Past Forte would have had all that stuff like literally in the first 3 weeks to get the DLC has been out. So I don't really get burnt out as fast as some of these other people do. And I think that's where a lot of people that play these games, that's where the problem is. It's like you jump in, you do everything in 2-3 weeks, and then you want them to come out with this imaginary content that's going to be able to keep you invested. Whereas a good 70 to 80% of the player base is perfectly fine with the direction that the game is going in. So the reason I'm kind of happy that this game is being delayed is, first of all, like you said, I do think crossplay and cross save and all that stuff does have probably something to do with it, because that's a monumental task to be able to get 4, 3, or it's not on Switch yet. It's just basically on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, right?
Outriders?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to Switch.
All right, I think it's going to Stadia though, which is okay.
It is going to Stadia. It's going to
that's probably what the problem is right there.
PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and Stadia.
And as long as Luna not on there, we good. But we don't need another. We don't need another streaming service. But I think that's kind of part of what I'm happy about, is because I want this game to be complete when it's done. I don't want to be waiting for content to come out. I want to know that the experience I'm going to get day one is the experience that was intended for me with this game, because I'm not going to put Destiny down. Most people that play Destiny aren't going to put it down until Bungie completely blows it up and says we're not making games anymore. I think this game is just going to just outlive pretty much any other looter shooter that does it. But Outrider doesn't have to be that. It just has to be it. It just has to be something that is supplemental to your grind of what other games you want to play. You know, if you're into Call of Duty and you like playing Warzone and you like putting 30 hours of that into a week, that could be your main game. Outriders could be the thing you say, yo, I just want to jump in and do some missions, do some leveling of my character, and then just keep it moving. I mean, that's the one thing that I think, Slow-Mo, you did that with Godfall, because Godfall falls in that type of arena when it comes to like looter and everything. And you didn't, you beat the game and you said you uninstalled it as soon as you were done with it.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping with Outriders is that the Outriders experience is more enjoyable, because even with the way Counterplay Games developed and their expectations were for Godfall, they still would have wanted me to play the game, because they actually developed a post game, and it's bare bones skeleton post game. But there's like you're kind of chasing these shards, so to speak, that can kind of help modify how your different suits, I forgot what they're called, operate. And I had zero intention of doing any of that. I finished the story that was terrible to begin with, and I uninstalled within seconds. What I'm hoping with Outriders, because they keep talking about how they really developed the story here, and you can see some of the cutscenes where there is a real story here. This is humanity has come to this planet for salvation, leaving Earth, and they get there and they realize it ain't flowers and sunshine like they thought it was going to be, and now they're kind of fighting for survival against this other anomaly that's there on the planet. I'm like, that's already a setup that's 1,000 times better than what Godfall had. And then there's an actual character, there's a story and a plot behind it. That's something that, if you look at all the looter shooters out there, none of them really they either have a story that's incoherent and can't be followed, or it's completely like generic and bare bones and is not really worth looking into any further.
Right. Yeah.
And this seems to be trying to do something different there. Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah. They also implemented, they got these world tiers, and which is also something that they absolutely borrowed this from the Division.
Yes,
but these world tiers, the Division world tiers only go up to 5. And the graphic that I saw, and I haven't played Outriders, I know there are other people who have played it and been in it, like closed alphas and stuff extensively. But the world tiers seem to go up like much farther, and it's a little bit kind of like with Borderlands, where when you turn, I forgot what they call it. They don't call it world tiers. They call it something different in Borderlands. But when you go up certain levels, the drops are way more plentiful. You're getting like a lot of good stuff off the drops than if you were saying doing it at like a lower world tier. So like it's stuff like that in the post game content that seems to make it, especially if like the build diversity is really good, something that you can really get into. And so I mean, I know it has some bust potential. There's some people who are just like, I don't know, like if the gameplay don't really grab you, it doesn't matter what content they put in there. If you don't like playing the game, you're not going to play it, period. It doesn't matter if it's got like the most amazing story, or if it's got like the most build diversity you've ever seen and be able to do so many kind of crazy, freaky things with weapons and gear. It doesn't matter. The game sucks to you. You're just not going to play it. So.
I think that was the inherent difference between Destiny and Division. Mostly Division, I think if you would have flipped the way those games came out with each other, I still think Destiny would have overtaken it, like taken a lot of people away, but Division was able to do it to Destiny, because Destiny is a completely different thing. It's space magic. It's all over the place. It's more of that power fantasy, where Division is more grounded somewhat in reality. But I think the fact that Destiny came out first is just that people stick with that and they just, I'll tinker in this other thing.
I disagree slightly, and here's why. I think the issue is that Ubisoft and Massive Entertainment, and as well as Red Storm, those are the Red Storm and Massive Entertainment are the two like major developers that work on Division. They weren't listening to what the Division community wanted out of the game, and unlike the Destiny community, when the Division community said, "Look, we don't like that. Look, we told y'all you don't like that."
Oh, they stopped. All
right, I'm out because you're not listening. And so they were just done. And like we talking about like the power fantasy, I had the power fantasy in Division 1. I didn't have the power fantasy.
You didn't have it in Division 2, yeah.
In Division 2 is just straight up like just DPS builds all over the place. All right, like okay, here's a DPS build for the LMGs, the ARs, the SMGs. It doesn't like it's like that. Where's the skill builds at? It's like it took forever to finally implement the skill builds. Where's survival mode at? Survival mode was your most popular mode from the first game, and you didn't bring it back to the second game. Why? Literally zero explanation to this day on why they didn't put survival mode in Division 2. In the Division 1, I can make a build where I could one-shot kill you with a sticky bomb. I used to run through the dark zone, big straight glass cannon. If a bullet grazed me, I would die. But that was like the risk reward of it. It was made it so exciting is that I'm running through the dark zone, trying to find groups of agents that I can hit one of them with a sticky if they were close enough together. I'm dropping all of them immediately. Then I can go over there and taunt over their dying bodies for a little before they respawn and come chase me. Like it was that kind of fun to have sniper builds where I could one-shot snipe people from literally down an entire street. There's none of that in Division 2. There's none of that build ever. So it's like they really did not understand why people enjoyed their first game.
No, and I agree, and I think that's kind of where Gregor's going with his first guy. It's this one up here. He says, he wished Division's DLCs would have had the balls to go crazy like zombies or alien invasions in Area 51 or something, rather than just more trash streets. And then he says, Destiny mostly beats out every looter shooter because Destiny feels unique and handmade, while other looter shooters seem generic with their map design. And that's the problem when you're talking about a game that's kind of grounded in reality. That's kind of the part that, like in Division 1, where people had problems with how tanky the enemies were. It's like, well, if you play looter shooters, you kind of understand that there's going to be a bunch of numbers that's going to come off an enemy, and you just got to kind of just suspend your belief on how much damage it's going to take this person down. You kind of Division didn't get that kind of pass like Destiny got, because Destiny is like, oh, we in space, we got wizards coming from the moon, we can do whatever we want, and guess what? People will believe it. And that is kind of the difference between those two type of genres. But I don't want to really bog us down with this one as much. It's just overall, I'm just happy that the game got delayed, because all delays are good delays to me, because it just means hopefully we're going to get a better game. I don't think the game can get worse, because trust me, if we would have got Cyberpunk in April, how bad would it have been in April? So we did get a better game in December when it released. It just needed to be in the oven a little bit longer. But we did have a super chat from our homie Brap, and you know what? Ejack, I want to hear you say what he had to say in this super chat. Go ahead and announce the super chat and do it in the best voice, mimicking your boy Brap as you can.
All right, here we go. What's up, fellas? Woo!
There we go. Woo! $2 super chat from the homeboy. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for stopping by as always. We got to get you back. I don't think he's been on. We're gonna just rotate through the whole Brat panel at some point. We're gonna get everybody on here so we can, get everybody's voices heard. But moving on to the next subject. Let's just jump into this. We got 30 people here. Let's just talk about Xbox and how when they were out shopping, you know, back in the day, you know, 2000, 1999, you know, Bill Gates was out here talking about he wants to have supercomputers hooked up to your TV, and he wants Windows playable in every room in your house. You know, there was also a moment where they were just trying to buy up everything. And, you know, Nintendo just happened to be one of those things that they tried to purchase. And they also tried to go after EA. They also tried to go after Square Enix. The world would have been a completely different place if Xbox and Microsoft would have found a way to score that golden goose called Nintendo. So, Slow-Mo, you bring this to the round. I'm about to say the round table. I've been listening to the Iron Lords too much. You bring this to the forefront, sir. Tell me about this information that has been going on that came to light about Xbox and their purchasing interests over the last 20 years.
Well, a lot of the stuff was stuff that I had read in a book written by, I think the guy's last name is Takashi, I think, but he wrote a book called Opening the Opening the Xbox, I think is what it was called. It came out like in probably early 2000s, like not too long after the first Xbox was out there, and it was funny because I heard about a lot of these stories, but essentially like about how they tried to really buy their way into the industry, how they were trying to get Square Enix. They were trying. They tried to get Nintendo, and Nintendo literally just like had the meeting with them just so they could laugh, you know, at this pitch for, you know, and stuff like that. And how what I didn't know was how close they were to actually getting Square Enix. And I think about that now, about like, how would this industry look if Square Enix was under Microsoft? And back then, you know, they would have had everything they did would be exclusive to Xbox. So how would this look if like, all the Final Fantasy games, all the Dragon Quest games,
they would never have had a RPG issue if that was the case.
No, definitely not.
I don't think it would have turned out that way, based off of their inexperience and how they went about things back then. Yeah, I think it probably would be a very different Square Enix right now. Because if you look at I know it's like, well, you would think like, well, I mean, they own them. It's not like they could go out of business.
Unless they got rid of, unless they stopped making Final Fantasy games.
Exactly. Like, I mean, like, you know, not everyone who has been purchased by Microsoft is still in business right now. You know, so like I said, so I don't think today's Xbox division would just straight axe a studio. Although, I mean, look at Lionhead. Where's Lionhead right now? But even then, I still think 2021 Xbox is different than 2016 Xbox or 2015 Xbox?
2016. Well, that was also, wasn't that, who was the head of Seamus?
No, Phil was still in charge. But we talking about back then.
Seamus Xbox back then was like Seamus, and who else was back then?
Ed Freeze.
Yeah.
But look. The difference back then, I remember reading
back then,
and I remember reading how the Xbox team. So like this is how Xbox came to be. There was actually like two different internal teams pitching ideas to Bill Gates. Mm-hmm. One was the team for Xbox, which was because this is what Bill Gates' vision was. Bill Gates' vision was, we want to own the living room.
Yep.
We want to create a machine that in the living room, it does everything that you want. And back then they thinking like, you know, like DVDs and stuff like that. Like watch your movies through it, watch your TV through it. Literally thinking, hey, we want people to come to us to watch HBO, watch ESPN. Like this is what their mindset was. Yeah, let's make a machine.
To
exactly. That's why, like when they did what they did with the Xbox One, I wasn't shocked at all. A lot of people was like, "Why you keep talking about TV? all this TV stuff. I'm like, because this was always the plan. It was the plan from the start. It's what they always, even after Bill Gates had left, this was always the end game. The end game was to do everything. Like, you don't need to go to anyone else. You just go to us for all of it. Video games, TV, and so the reason why, so like I said, it was two different teams. There was the Xbox team, which they didn't really think they was going to really get approved because what they were doing wasn't really what Bill Gates told them to do.
Mm-hmm.
The other team was making, remember back, what was it called back in the day? We call it DVR now, but it was called something else. Kind of the way people used to talk about iPods as
TiVo.
As TiVo. That was it.
Yeah.
They made a TiVo box. So it was going to be strictly just a TiVo box to compete with TiVo. And that was supposed to be so Bill had to sit between these two different ideas, and whichever one he chose would be the one that would get the funding to go forward, and would be what would end up being what they would put their money behind.
Mm-hmm.
They convinced Bill that the Xbox wasn't like the final form. This is just your entryway into the typical American's entertainment system.
Yeah.
You got your cable box, you got your TV, you can even have your TiVos, but your video game console, that's going to be right there. That's your Xbox. And so we would have a way of getting in, and then we can just build on it from there. So look what they did with the 360. They still, primarily makes video games, plays video games, but then also, hey, look, we got these other apps on here. Oh, you can watch Netflix through this now. You can do all this other stuff through it now. And then, it progressed forward with the Xbox One. That was always the idea. And that's why they got the funding over it, because the other team, the TiVo team, the Xbox TiVo team, could not convince Bill where it was going beyond just this DVR recorder. Mm-hmm. But all I said, I mean, it's very interesting story how they got it to work and the ideas that they had, and how much money that they had to work with. I mean, they even tried to buy EA. Like, imagine that. Mm-hmm. Imagine if they purchased EA. I think now, if anything would have definitely changed the shape of the industry, it's that acquisition. If they were able to land EA, and Madden would have been exclusive to Xbox, we're looking at a completely different. And Madden and FIFA, you're looking at a completely different like landscape of gaming right now, where they're not like the distant third or the somewhat slight, not super distant. You look at all the revenue, they're like just a little bit behind Nintendo, but they wouldn't even be third place. They would be competing neck to neck with Sony if they had everything EA back then. But I don't know. I've been talking a whole lot. I mean, what you guys think about it? Yeah,
go ahead, E.
No, I'm in agreement with Slow-Mo. It's just kind of funny, like hearing like these stories about what they were trying to do, and it kind of, if you kind of fast forward to now, that it's kind of back in that same realm. If you think about the moves that they're making now, trying to compete and trying to get that attention, and they have a different model around it, obviously. And the Xbox, it has been here for a while and has established itself, as a viable, machine. But right. It is pretty interesting, because a lot of people will liken, if you go back then, it was like, when they first announced, or you first heard that, Microsoft was trying to get into the gaming industry with like a box. I mean, the conversations, people were laughing outside of Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Like, what? Mm-hmm. What is this thing going to be? Is it going to be like a little PC tower looking thing? Is it going to be, like, what is this going to be? And if you go and you listen to the Ryan McCaffrey interview that he did with like Seamus and Peter Moore and Phil, Phil, you hear them talking about how like this thing kicked off and what it meant, and how even people within Microsoft were laughing at them and kind of treating them like the little punk kids. Mm-hmm. You go off in your own, they had their own little building way off somewhere on the campus, and what they were doing over there. So, but at the same time, when they finally came into it, it was like people looked at it as hunger. Like they were going after all these things because they were being dead serious about trying to break in. They knew the only way to break in was to have a serious portfolio, So that's kind of where I think too, where people kind of look back on what happened, between, early 360, middle 360 to the end of the 360 life going into the Xbox One, is because like all that hunger. And then to hear Slow-Mo talking about like the TV stuff is like, well, they were obviously still very committed to that vision of owning the living room, versus being a gaming centric, box. And it seems like they're trying to get back to that now. It's all about that versus everything else, but no, it's not surprising, that, you would go to Nintendo. I mean, obviously they're going to take the meeting and you're going to walk in and you give it your best shot. But yeah, to hear that for like an hour, they were laughed at, Nintendo's like, okay, well, first of all, you're an American company and no, we're not doing that. So I can imagine, how uncomfortable that was. But if you even think back a few years ago, you remember the conversations around that where people were thinking that Nintendo was done because of the Wii U. And I'm kind of like, it's Nintendo, guys. Like, this is what they do. They hit and then they sleep for a minute, and then they hit and then they sleep for a minute.
I like your word, sleep. It's like sleep. The Switch is literally the sleeping giant at this point.
Yeah, so it's like, but people thought, after like Wii U is like, oh, they're a wrap. They just need to go be a publisher and they need to partner up with Microsoft and put all their stuff. And I'm like, yo, that is not going to happen. It's like, that won't happen until Nintendo decides that they're pretty much just done with hardware. Yeah. They're like the king of reinventing how they go about doing things. And much like how we're talking about like with Outriders, they carved their little niche, which I know this will lead into our next topic at some point. But it's you think about how some of these things would have turned out had they went ahead and went that direction. Of course, they were trying to do that in a world where these developers and publishers were at the top of their game as far as, like the stuff that they were putting out. And it was not like how it is today where, there's an influx of games week to week because now you have more independence in the pool and, like the world has changed around, like, the always online looter shooter or, like the Fortnites of the world and stuff like that. So yeah, just a whole different time, but very interesting.
I guess what I wanted to kind of talk about something that Bacchus has said in the Bloomberg article, and he's talking about something that's very similar to what we have said about Google and Stadia, and also Amazon with Luna trying to get into the market, and it's a lot of very similar thoughts and opinions. Not from gamers, but from people who within the industry that they need in order to really get a foothold. And so Bacchus said that they had met with EA a half dozen times. And in all those meetings, they reminded them that Microsoft had a history of putting its toe in the water. And when things didn't work out, they would abandon that market and pretend like it never happened, which is what big well, they weren't $1 trillion companies then, but this is what big, huge, humongous, multi-billion-dollar companies have the ability to do. We tried it didn't work out, move on. But the fact that, like, what the EA was saying, like, for you, that's just a rounding error on your balance sheet. You just move on and act like, that's a blip. It didn't hurt you. But for us, this is everything that we do. This is everything that we are. So if you aren't committed to this, and then we are committed to you and it fails, what is left for us? And then like literally like the CEO was like, I want to know who gets fired if this fails. Because like, he didn't try and go down without somebody, biting it. And so I think that is similar to what we see with Stadia and Luna now, because people don't want to tie themselves to someone who they think isn't as committed to making sure this works as they are, because you don't have any real skin in the game that other people do. And a replicant, have a good night, man. You don't have the same skin in the game that they do, because this is everything that they do.
Right.
If this fails, the company's done. Or at the very least, my job in running this company is over, and I'm out here looking for something else. Maybe I get a golden parachute, maybe I don't. But I don't want to see that. I don't even want to, reach that point. And that's what I think part of the reason why EA didn't go with them is just that no, we don't think you're serious with this.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
they didn't even want
about it, they really were.
Yeah, they didn't even want to promote it. They didn't even want to make games for the original Xbox. So why would they think about that? I mean, you got to think, Nintendo had. You got to think by the time they didn't give a real time period. They just said around the time of the Xbox getting ready to come out. You got to think around that same time, it was like Nintendo had just got through getting kind of bent over by PlayStation and not being able to, build that system in conjunction with them. And at that point, they were sitting there like, we're just off on our own on this. Xbox hasn't proved itself. I mean, at that point, they were nobodies. They were just a company that had a business plan around finding a way to get their intellectual property on every PC you own. That was Microsoft's end game right there at that point. So they didn't know anything about consoles. And I mean, fortunately for us being gamers, that they did land Bungie, which is what propelled them into the console atmosphere ecosystem. There, I can't think, but it's kind of crazy just thinking about how far Xbox has come in 20 years and where they started at. The company is still doing the same thing that the company was doing back then. Acquisition after acquisition. Look where we are now. We got Bethesda in the wheelhouse. People were kind of shocked when Rare got bought up by them a long time ago. So this isn't nothing new. Xbox and Microsoft, they're always trying to, better themselves when it comes to, taking something that, they see a use for and just doing something with it. But I also think they do that. And I do think Nintendo, and I do think, like you said about Square Enix, that is a fear that a lot of people did have back then, because Microsoft went out and spent $7 billion on Nokia. What happened to them?
Right.
I mean, you would have never thought. Nokia was one of the big names in cellular devices, and they literally shuttered it. So and that's what happens when you're talking. And you got to think, Microsoft didn't have as much money then as they have now. Now we're splitting hairs, because they always been $1 billion company. But they're $1 trillion company now, and they still think the same freaking way. If you ain't doing what you need to do for us, kind of time to move on. Look, see Mixer. They could have kept Mixer open. Trust me, Mixer was not hurting their bottom line one bit compared to everything else, but they still got rid of it after giving all those people all that money. So, I can definitely see a situation where maybe, like I said, with Square Enix and stuff like that, not EA, because EA, but who knows what EA would be now? EA, the only reason they're super relevant now is because of the NFL license. They got Madden. Would they even be a microtransaction spending spree? Would that have gotten cultivated under the Xbox leadership? That's kind of a whole nother way to look at it. The EA that is now may not even be that EA, so we don't know what the playing field would have been for those companies. Nintendo, the one thing about Nintendo that and I don't know if I ever asked you this, Slow-Mo, can you name 5 Nintendo studios, the names of the actual studios that make these games? Can you tell me the name of the company that makes Mario Kart?
No.
Because
they don't promote that stuff. When that game comes out, who made it? Nintendo made it.
Right.
Nintendo made it.
Nintendo.
It's like retro. They're retro.
But they don't own retro, so retro ends up getting some kind of billing when they make Metroid Prime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everyone else, once you get owned by Nintendo, you're just Nintendo.
You're just Nintendo.
You don't get your name, unless like individual developers like Miyamoto, of course. But you bringing up Nintendo reminds me of something that was in the article. I thought was pretty interesting. One of the Xbox executives said that they actually had a negotiations with Nintendo eventually, after being laughed at, I guess, to do a joint venture where the Xbox, I guess, would just be sold, and they would use the hardware and they would put their games on it. And so it would be like a joint venture where it's our hardware but your games, because they really weren't competing with PlayStation when it came to technical specs. That they really aren't doing it now either. But they really weren't. Lawrence War says Nintendo does own Retro Studios.
He said they do.
I did not know that. I thought they didn't, but
that's the whole other thing. Like I said, it's like I was talking to somebody at work about that, and we were talking about the video game awards and how, Last of Us like swept the field, and how people kept saying how Naughty Dog is like one of the best developers out there. And then, a guy walked up, and said, let me ask you something. What's some of the most sold games in the world? And it's like, we named some games, and he was like, what about Wii Sports? What about Mario Kart? What about Zelda? I said, yeah, Nintendo games. Most of Nintendo games are in the top 10. It's pretty much all Nintendo games at this point. And he was like, who made those games? And I had to think about it. I was like, yo, we don't know who made Nintendo games. It's like, to them, like you said, once you are owned by Nintendo, the seal of Nintendo approval is basically what matters mostly to when Nintendo is. Who knows what the studio? Who are these studios? But they must be very talented studios, because they do come out pretty much every time. Their games are in the consideration for either Game of the Year or at least in the contention for being in that high 9s to almost masterpiece ranking, where it comes to like a lot of these publishers giving them 10s and stuff. So
and they actually just purchased Next Level Games.
They did.
Glorious Ward just said that Next Level Games, I think, makes Luigi's Mansion.
Like Luigi's Mansion, which I just found out. I didn't know that.
Almost guaranteed, like going forward, you're never going to hear Next Level Games again.
Nope. Luigi Mansion 3 comes out, or whatever. 4? Who's that? Nintendo.
That's Nintendo. That's Nintendo.
Yeah. So
I think it's something that's very interesting and kind of relevant to what's going on with Xbox and Bethesda, or ZeniMax Media. ZeniMax Games is, I say it right, ZeniMax Media.
Yeah, ZeniMax Media.
They have a letter of intent, and that's why they haven't finished acquiring ZeniMax. But they talk about in this report about how they actually had a letter of intent to buy Square, but then Square came back and was just like, yeah, so our banker says what you offering is too low. So even after the letter of intent, after they had already agreed, because once a letter of intent is out there, you pretty much already agreed to a price.
Yeah, you agreed to the price.
Yeah, and at that point, it's all about just making sure that everything that you said, that you own, IP, everything that you're worth, really is what it is when the lawyers get involved. And but that process can take some time, especially if you're a bigger company.
Well, that's why you don't see a lot of. That's why you see when the letter of intent goes out, you don't see any movement in that company. Like they don't shift leadership, they don't close studios, that stuff is left static. So the lawyers can come in and evaluate the property and say, all right, this is a good deal. And then once it's acquired, then said owning company who acquired can do whatever they want with the entity.
Right. And that's just it's interesting because like that's where we're at with ZeniMax Media right now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes through, because like ZeniMax Media is bigger than where Square was then. This is before Square merged with Enix. Yeah, because people think about Square Enix, but back in the day, it used to be Squaresoft, right? Yeah,
I know.
And Enix was just like Enix's biggest game was Dragon's Quest, which I always thought like I never even tried Dragon's Quest because I'm a Final Fantasy guy, so I don't touch that. Like back in the day, everybody was like, "You're Final Fantasy," he was Dragon's Quest, right? So I didn't even touch their games, but I remember. I think it was it? Did they have to do? I think they merged after they did the Final Fantasy movie that bombed, Spirits Within.
Mm-hmm.
That movie
was great.
Amazing.
That movie looked great.
It looked great.
I like the movie.
It bombed terribly, man.
It did bomb. I went to the movie. I went to the theaters to see it.
Square spent so much of their own money. It's like they had no idea like how Hollywood worked, right? Like Hollywood studio, like they spend a lot of their own money, but then they also get investors to kind of like invest into projects so that like if a movie bombs, it's not like the end of the world for you. And they went all in solo on that movie. And I think it's like they were expecting it to do like 3 times as much as what it did, and it didn't do that. And then it just really put them in a financial bind where they weren't, I don't really feel like they were ever the same after that, and until they merged with Enix and kind of
they did promotion like crazy for that. I think they thought that Final Fantasy thing was on there. When people went and saw it, they were like expecting, not that. No, they saw it. Yeah. It was like, what is it? How is this Final Fantasy? The kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people saying it was boring. That's what a lot of people. It looks pretty, and they had never seen an animated like movie look like that before. It was well ahead of its time technology wise, but that was part of the problem. They spent so much money.
Yeah, they would have done having children.
That was called all CGI right there.
Yeah, and all that money.
Having children first would have probably been a different story for them.
Oh yeah, but they didn't do having children until like that should have been there. See,
that should have been the first.
That's my issue with Square. They make some of the dumbest decisions. They finally came Final Fantasy VII remake 20 years after Final Fantasy VII comes out. We didn't know you guys wanted it. Like, how did you not know?
Right.
That your fan base wanted a remake of this.
Right. I always said if they wanted to print money, just make Final Fantasy VII, remake it.
I mean, they could. Here's a hit. Hey, Square, if you're listening, here's another one. Remake Final Fantasy VI.
Yep,
that will print money too. But there will be another 15 years before they go, hey, what if we took Final Fantasy VI and we made it modern? Would you guys think that would work? I don't know. Like, it's just. They make some of the weirdest. If Advent Children, if they instead of wasting their money on the Spirits Within, and they would actually, because this is after Final Fantasy VII, so Final Fantasy VII is the reason why they even had enough money to make Spirits Within movie. So if they would actually did a direct sequel, which is what Advent Children was to Final Fantasy VII, and then they could tie that into, if you want to know what this is all about, go play that game on PlayStation. For the non-gaming people, with all that action that was going on in it, man, like that would have been perfect. They would be a different Square right now.
Yeah, they wouldn't be complaining about Tomb Raider selling 8 million but underperforming.
I know, right? Hey, but it's funny. Like they weren't able to acquire Square, but they did go out on a couple of dates with Sakaguchi. Like later, like they're like, well, we can't take the whole company, but we can take the guy that's sort of falling out of love with you for a minute, So like when they did Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, which people are still asking for like sequels on that.
Oh they're Xbox sitting on some gold mines when it came to those older stuff.
Yeah,
but no, I agree. I just think I didn't even think about that whole thing. I forgot about Enix owning Dragon Quest at the time. And that's how it ended up being under Square. Because I remember being so uninformed when I was younger. I was like, Squaresoft? I thought it was Square. Square Enix. I thought it was Squaresoft. What happened? And then I found out like years later that they got bought by Enix and they kind of just merged the names. And I was like, oh. And then that's when I found out Dragon Quest became a thing. Because I was like, who wants to play Dragon Quest? Final Fantasy's better. So, no, I agree. But let's I think we took care of that. But yeah, just like E-Jack, he brought it up. So I'm gonna let him take off with this topic. Continue with the Nintendo conversation. We've been talking about a Switch Pro every year ever since the Switch came out. I think literally within 4 months of the Switch coming out, people was like, yo, we need a Switch Pro. It's been rumor after rumor after rumor about the Switch Pro. Now we had our new latest set of rumors, 4K screens and double screens and all this other crazy stuff. But I do want to ask you guys, and like I said, I'm going to start with E. What do you think about the rumors of this Switch Pro this time around? And secondly, does Nintendo really even need a pro version of their Switch to succeed?
Okay. I'm starting to kind of labor under the idea that more and more, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. You know, because like when this was first kind of announced, we kind of went, okay, yeah. And people kind of ran with it. It was like it was about to happen, and then it didn't happen. But now it seems like, from the way it sounds, we've had enough time where there's, we've had the regular Switch and the Switch Lite, and the way it's kind of coming and rolling in now, it sounds like there might be a little something to it. I don't know if it's going to be what people are talking about. I think people are starting to get the hype train going again with like the 4K display and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that thing is going to melt your hands when you hold it. So in that regard, no, Nintendo does not need that type of device, because they're going to find themselves in the scenario of who's their hardcore fan base that's going to buy that. That's not who they go for, right? And no parent is going to want to pay, $500, $400, $500 for a handheld to hand their kid to drop on the floor, right? Yeah.
They didn't want to do it for $300 when it came out, until they realized that that's the cheapest system you could get at the time.
Right. Mm-hmm. So when I kind of think Nintendo would, when they kind of get into the whole pro realm, I think I kind of start thinking more about in terms of the new 3DS, like what they were doing with that. I mean, I didn't think they needed to do the new 3DS the way they did it, because they didn't really do anything to support it. All they did was put the little, rubber eraser dongle thing on it.
Yeah.
And then say, hey, yo, you can't access Nintendo games on your old one, only on this one. I'm like, really, Nintendo? Like, the old 3DS cannot play Super Nintendo games? Emulated games? Nope. You can only get it on the new 3DS, right? So I get what they were trying to do there. So when it comes to a Pro, I can see it having a better screen. I can see it having better processing and something of a more solid form factor, than, what the current model has or whatever. But, yeah, I don't, do they need the Pro? I think they do need something that can do processing a little bit better than what the standard console does now, just in terms of if they want to continue having some form of third-party support. You know, if they know about their history, that's what killed them last time. They didn't have any third-party support, and they got better third-party support now because people are working wizardry to get these things even on the machine. They don't run very well, and they're already seeing that, but they're already left behind now in terms of where we're going with, the Series S, X, and then the PS5. So where they could kind of get away with the third-party support of the old gen hardware and some trickery. They were even doing trickery with that. They're not going to get that now. So they have to have, if they're going to really continue to play, they got to have something they can kind of keep up with and support some form of third party.
Yeah, I do agree. They got to have something to keep up with third party. I think one of the really underrated reasons why the Switch is so popular is that you can play some of these popular games that you would get typically just on a console, that you would be stuck in your living room, or on a PC stuck in at your gaming desk or office, whatever, and play it on the go, play it mobily. That is different. That's a whole different game changer. Like, to be playing almost one for one the same kind of game on a mobile device, that's not really what we've dealt with before. And we're seeing some competition in that sense with Stadia in some ways, with NVIDIA's offering, with xCloud and Xbox, of course. But Nintendo is the industry leader in that arena, and that's not really going to change anytime soon. But like you said, what they need to do is keep up, because with new consoles coming out, games are still going to start over the, slowly transitioning away from the visual fidelity and performance of last gen, and Nintendo couldn't even do that one for one. Like, you would see these games launch on Xbox and PlayStation and PC, and then they will launch 6 months to a year later on the Switch, because they would have to outsource it to a whole different developer to make a version that will work on the Switch. So it's never just almost. Sometimes you would see games, launch same date, but even then they would outsource that to a co-development studio to take care of it for them. So I mean, that's what happened with the thing is that like Stadia, for example, with Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red outsourced Cyberpunk 2077 to QLock, I think is the name of the developer, to do the Stadia port. But that Stadia port's really good. It's a really good version of Cyberpunk, which isn't severely compromised. This is more of CD Projekt Red just not having the bandwidth to do that. Versus, not only do we not have the bandwidth to do that, but we don't really have the time to be having our developers trying to figure out how to cut corners and make it work on really outdated hardware, which is going to get to my point. One of my 2 points of why I do not think Nintendo will come out with a Switch Pro this year. So the first point I'm gonna say is I think the success of the Switch is so successful that they don't feel we don't need to rush this out this year. We don't want to cripple sales of hardware that's selling just fine right now by introducing a new version on the market that might split things up. So that's that's so to speak. They could have that mindset with it. I also, my main reason for thinking that they won't do it is that I found some information about how, because Nvidia is their chip maker, their partner for Nintendo. Nvidia was actually trying to offered Nintendo and was trying to convince Nintendo to go with a newer architecture than what they chose to go with. And Nintendo was like, nah, we'll take that old crap over there. So
it's probably a lot cheaper.
It was a lot cheaper.
Right, they're like a lot cheaper, and we can rake in more dough.
Right. Yeah. Now, what I think is that Nintendo's mindset rarely ever changes. It wouldn't surprise me at all because apparently that was a point of contention between Nvidia and Nintendo. I don't know if Nvidia was having some difficulties getting that to work within the parameters that they wanted to work with and have it actually, be stable within a Nintendo Switch console. But that could be another issue going forward because Nintendo is stubborn. And now you want a more powerful that can compete. And of course, Nvidia can make something that can compete with these current gen consoles, right? Easily. But to get it within something that a device that's mobile that can keep it cool so it doesn't overheat on you, and be within Nintendo's cheap pockets. Not cheap because they ain't got no money, but cheap because they cheap. Right. So, like, I think that might be a problem, and you add that with the fact that, look, we don't really need to get this deal done right now. I mean, we still outselling our competition, and they drop new heat on us. Like, I think all that together will mean, like, I don't think the Switch Pro comes out until 2022.
And the funny thing is, you feel how much heat comes off of a Switch, like a regular Switch. Yeah. Man, I played Road Company on my Switch when I was on vacation last summer. Dude, I was playing it I was holding it, man. My hands were pretty hot. Like holding the back of it was just burning up to the point where I was like, partly because Joy-Cons I think suck. I had to kick out the kickstand, sit it on the table, and pulled out my Switch Pro controller and played it with the Switch Pro controller, so I didn't have to touch it no more.
Yeah,
that thing gets hot.
Yeah,
it does. It does. I think. Okay, so I mostly agree with what you just said. I do think on E's part, there's smoke, there's fire. I do think that this thing is a reality now. If it comes out this year, is up in the air. I do think that thing is still tied to Breath of the Wild 2. I think when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, that's coming out with it, if that's the case. But I think some people kind of overlook the fact that I think it's not like Xbox and PlayStation where another system could come in and disrupt the ecosystem. I think if a Switch Pro came out, I don't think that would impact the regular Switch or the Switch Lite in any fashion. I think if anything, that
wouldn't it be the same demographic that would then choose between one or the other?
No, I think this is the thing. I think people that want to Switch, for the most part, the people that we buy a Switch Pro already have a Switch. Those people already have.
But okay. But then people, okay, all right. So they sold about what, like 70 plus
They're
million.
at like 70 plus million Switches right now.
Right. We anticipate them to be well into the over 100 million, right?
Within the next 2 years, yes.
If they never drop the Switch Pro, that's still going to happen.
They're still going to hit 100 million, yes.
So that's another additional.
They're going to be PlayStation 2 numbers by the time the Switch is done.
Okay, so that's a minimum of another 30 to 40 million.
Yes.
Switches sold.
Yep.
Those are still new customers.
Yeah, people that's going to be buying
you come out with
Switch Pros.
You come out with a Switch Pro, they're probably not going to get that regular Switch. They're going to get the Switch Pro instead. Not all of them.
You're missing.
There's a section of them that are not going to get that Switch Pro. Which what I'm saying is that if you wait, you can still get those people in on the Switch, and then get them to double up and get a Switch Pro when you come out with it. So like it's then you're making more money off of that one customer. That one customer spent $300 for the Switch. Then he went and spent $400 on the Switch Pro. That's $700 versus you drop a Switch Pro and he's like, I can get the Switch or I get the Switch Pro. You see what I mean?
Well, I get that because that's every platform though. I mean, if you hold out long enough, there was people like that bought PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series X's in the same year or probably a year before they bought their new system. They bought the old ones like a year ago. And I mean, if you wait long enough, more people are going to get in because that's the only option they have at that point. I just think the one thing about the Switch that a lot of people just kind of overlook is the fact that the Switch, it didn't sell 70 million systems based on a bunch of one-off people going out and buying it. The Switch, I saw this coming from so far away. I was like, they gonna sell this thing to families 3, 4, 5 times over. Like my house alone has 3 Switches alone. I know a whole bunch of other people's houses got multiples, like 2 or 3. Some got 4 because at a certain point, everybody wants to have their own. And then if you add the Switch Lite into the equation, now Nintendo kind of has effectively taken care of the family that don't want to go out and spend $300 on a system because they don't want to hand that over to their 6-year-old to mess up. Now they're willing to do that because they say, oh, 200 is not that much. 200 is not that bad. I did 3DSs. They were doing that for, they were $250. I mean, actually they were $300 when they released. Nintendo finally dropped the price 6 months after launch and gave everybody the ambassador program just because they felt like they were ripping people off for an extra $30 or extra $50. So I just think they're in an ecosystem right now where the people that want the Switch Pro already, I mean, you're right. If they wait, more people are going to get the regular Switch and then they'll have the opportunity to upgrade those people to Switch Pros anyway. So if they wait longer, that's going to happen.
I'm going to tell you what the main reason, what I believe is the main reason why a Switch Pro ain't coming out this year. Here's my third reason.
Yeah.
In order for them to really get a Switch Pro that still does what the Switch does, which is it's portable as well as a console, and actually has a higher visual fidelity and greater performance that actually keeps up with current gen consoles now, which is PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles. In order for them to do that, they need to have NVIDIA make them a 5-nanometer chip.
Oh, I agree with that.
And that is not happening in 2021.
It might not.
Well, here's why. Because there are 2 main chip makers out there. There's TMSC, and they make primarily everything. They make the chips for AMD. They make them for NVIDIA. They make them for Apple. Samsung makes their own stuff, but Apple, they're doing mobile phones. They're doing discrete CPUs, discrete GPUs. They're doing consoles, the chips for consoles, the SOCs, the APUs. They do all that stuff. They are so overworked with that that NVIDIA had to go over to Samsung to have Samsung do their 7 nanometer Ampere line.
Mm-hmm.
The Get 5, Apple took up everything for the iPhones when they went down to 5.
Oh, they did. They took everything. I do know that.
Apple, no one is getting in line in front of Apple. Period. Like
Apple's the biggest company in the world.
Apple is going to sell the most units. They can just say no. This is what, because everything is going to go out the door, and they can make the biggest orders, and they will re-up with you, even quicker than everyone else will. So that may be the biggest reason alone, because they can't go to. The thing is that the smaller the nanometer, the better. Mm-hmm. That way you'll be able to hold on a second, because my headset just died on me. I'm still talking, but you will be able to get more CUDA cores, and basically you'll be able to get more into the what's the word I'm saying here? The actual performance out of the chips. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
You'll be able to do that better with the smaller that you go. And in order to do that, and then be able to have something that's handheld, that's cooling, it's not going to happen with their current architecture. It's not going to happen with Nintendo trying to get the old architecture that NVIDIA was using 3 or 4 years ago. That's not going to cut it. And so in order for them to do that, they got to come up with something that's really, really unique, extremely innovative design that can keep it cool in someone's hands. Is something that people can say, I can see myself walking out the door with this. Because if it's too big and bulky, people are going to leave it at home. Or they're going to look at it on commercials and say, I'm not carrying that around with me. I mean, you got people right now don't want to carry around a regular controller in a clip for their phone. So much less like a big Nintendo Switch. You get kids who do it, but kids aren't the primary people who are buying these. They're young adults between the ages of 25 and 40. So you have to have something that looks nice, looks small enough that someone would say, I could put this in my backpack. I can carry. I can play this on the train while I'm on my way to work or on my lunch break, and I don't feel like I'm lugging around a mini console with me.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that and have that performance, they're just not going to be able to have that in a time where the pandemic has hit productions all across the globe severely, and a time where you can't get a GPU without selling your ass on the corner.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen this year. It's just,
no, and I'm more to believe that it isn't, because I don't think Breath of the Wild, as much as I want Breath of the Wild to come out this year, I don't think it is either, because I inherently believe that game is tied to that system in some way. Not saying that you won't be able to play it on a regular system. I just think that's going to be the game that they're going to use to propel people to want to get that system, because that's the one they're going to show it off on. But ultimately, it really just comes back to Nintendo don't really need this. They'll be doing, they're basically listening, they're basically doing goodwill if they release this system, because nobody expects Nintendo to come out here and give you anything on the level of even trying to compete with any of these next gen systems. And even then, I don't think this system will compete with next gen, because how could it? It's portable. I mean, then again, there are laptops that can do it, but then again, how much are those laptops costing you? I mean, I'm not saying that the Switch Pro will be a laptop, but at a certain point, $500 for the Switch Pro would not be out of the ordinary for a system that the portability side of it to be able to hang with these next gen systems in any regard would kind of just be not out of Nintendo's wheelhouse, but just out of the norm for them.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, shout out to Sergeant 12 in the chat. Nvidia just bought ARM though. Maybe I'm out of the loop on that. I thought they bought ARM for AI to help them with AI in the future. That's what I thought.
Could be
bought ARM for. So I don't know whether it was actually for a production reason or not. Don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to change how NVIDIA gets their product mass produced. Like Intel does their they make their own, but most of these companies don't do that. So I don't know.
Well, the biggest thing is Nintendo is right now they're killing it. This move will be mostly for third party, not for first party. And I think it was you that said this on Brap a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about rumors around the Switch Pro. If it's not going to benefit Nintendo in their first party, it ain't no reason to do it.
Yep.
Because if Nintendo ain't trying to take advantage of it themselves, why would they make it for third party? Because guess what? Nintendo look at third party like you guys are eating off us. Like, of all of the platforms, we always say exclusives do matter. That is very inherent. That is very apparent for Nintendo and all their IP, because you don't buy a Nintendo system for third party. You may enjoy the third party games on there because they're available, but you don't like if you have a Switch. About a good 80% of your games are probably first party games. You can't say that for the other platforms. The other platforms, people got libraries that are so huge that first party looks like they're just being dwarfed by third party at that point.
I am the anomaly in that because I bought the Switch.
Yeah, you are the anomaly in that. I will say that.
And I did not care not a single bit about any Nintendo first party games. It's partly the reason why I sold it, because it was like I wasn't getting any use out of it in 2020 because they didn't like that third party lineup kind of dried up, or the stuff that was going.
You like that value you got for that Switch, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You only lost $100 on it.
But that third party, it was either games that I already played on other platforms and weren't going to play again, or they just didn't really have the exclusive like that. Like when I chose to buy it, it was because they got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 exclusive to the Switch, and Fire Emblem Three Houses was Fire RPG, and there's no other place to play it. So hey, look, if they do that when the Switch Pro comes out, I might pick one back up, But the thing is that what I was saying also really the reason why I was bringing that up about how Nintendo does what Nintendo develops their hardware based off of what they want to do with their games. The games shape how the hardware is, but their games are very different than everyone else's, which is the reason why there are times when Nintendo will develop some hardware and literally no one's interested in it.
Yeah.
No one wants to put a game on that. The Wii should have been a blockbuster, and it should have been a system where developers would have been falling over themselves to get licensing to put their games on there, but they didn't. Why? Because the Wii shucks. Like, yeah, they did have other controllers that were more traditional, but those didn't come with the Wii.
Those weren't guaranteed to be with the system.
Exactly, which is part of the reason why, like, as soon as Xbox decoupled the Kinect away from Xbox One, all Kinect development dried up. Because you can't guarantee on people being there to actually have the hardware to take advantage of what you're doing. Likewise with the Wii, third-party developers are like, what do I look like trying to make my game work on your Wii shucks?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to do that. Like, I'm not really trying to put so much extra effort into putting it on this platform, especially when I don't know whether it's going to sell or not. So, because people, they get your platform, especially with the Wii, most people got the game they wanted with the Wii free with the Wii.
Okay.
Wii Sports.
Wii Sports.
That was it.
Game ever.
No one. Majority of people didn't play anything else. They had games like Mad World that was actually pretty good.
Couldn't move fast enough to play anything else.
Right.
People that own that system.
So it's just like a lot of people are just thinking about what Nintendo would do if they were running Nintendo, what they would do in their position. Oh, I would just make a better version of what they already got. That's common sense. That should be what you should be doing. But
Shout out to
Nintendo
in the house. What's up?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, but this is Nintendo, and they're different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they could make a Switch Pro and it be the shape of a turtle, and the controller is the shape of a pterodactyl, and you just be like, "The hell is this?" And they'd be like, "Hey, here we go, Mario." And it's just like, "Yo, what did y'all do? Why did you make this? Why didn't you just do what you did before?" Good night, Enrique. And it's like it seems so simple to us, but they just like, no, we ain't doing that because we don't want to. Why don't you just implement an achievement system like literally everyone else who has a platform?
They don't have to.
We don't want to do that.
They don't have to. They don't have to. Nintendo go do.
Can I send a message to somebody to say, "Hey, I'm online. Hey, you want to play this game with me?" No.
Can I text them?
Can I get a wireless? Can I get some wireless headphones to hook up to my Switch so I ain't gotta play through a phone on an app? Because I can't hook up a wireless pair of headphones to my Switch.
Mr. Forte, let's think about that. How much does that cost, y'all? Oh no, we ain't doing that.
How much that wireless adapter cost to put in that Switch? Oh, we ain't doing that.
What? $5 per unit.
Oh man, that's crazy. Now that you think about it, I definitely don't think this is happening this year. So E, you got anything else on this?
No, I was just gonna kind of tag on to what Slow-Mo was saying, and what you were saying too, Forte, is like the first party part of it is sort of like the thing, because they've always been very good at whatever hardware they're working with. Having the file size be ridiculously small for how good the game looks.
Can't believe it.
You're like, how's this?
I can't believe that I can have like so many Switch games running on my Switch installed, but as soon as I go put NBA 2K on there, one game, they say you need a memory card.
Exactly. So from the first party standpoint, like, it's never like a thing about whether the game looks good, plays good, or you have storage space, whatever the case may be. Again, that's not their motivation, like in a Microsoft, Sony fan base, where it's like, visual fidelity. Like Nintendo's games are more about like the gameplay, and they pop off the screen because they figure out a way to, however they do their compression, it still looks really good, right?
Yeah.
So their motivation isn't 4K. They're like, well, 4K, we don't care about that. So it's gonna be that thing. Like, how does it benefit their first party, and then getting that third party to come along for the ride? Because there is something to that whole theory of people buy into but it's portable. They will buy that other game just because in their mind they're like, if I go to the barbershop, I can take it with me.
Right.
They never do.
Right.
They never do.
They never do. But
they never do. They never take it to the beach and get wet.
Right.
Yeah. The switch to the beach from.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my gosh! We used to argue about this in Discords for like hours. With the hard head, man. Hard head was like, I'll take my switch to the beach. Dude, you at the beach. Why you go to the beach to go play play at home? It's just
like, I'm going to the basketball court to play my Switch. I'm playing 2K on my Switch while everybody's actually playing basketball.
Shooting hoops.
hey, shout out to the Ash and Luca in the chat. She was confused by my greeting to her. I went back to our conversation earlier about safe for work conversations. I said, salutations, dear madam.
Luke will say, well, you know what you're not getting on the Switch is that Sekiro, that greatness. That Sekiro.
That's true. Then again, you never know. You might get Switch is getting everything late. They might get that sooner or later. You never know.
I don't know if I could even imagine playing a game like Sekiro.
Imagine as hot as the Switch gets.
Did you say as hot as the Switch gets?
As hot as it gets, being at a beach that's already hot and playing it, man, and sand and everything. No. Yeah, you're gonna need a tent or something to kind of keep the sun off of it, because that thing reflective. You ain't gonna be able to see the screen.
Yeah, well, It's 11 o'clock. I do want to. I'm gonna ask you. I do want to ask you guys this last thing. We had two more. We'll move the PlayStation 1 to next week, talking about everybody's experiences. Over the course of the time of having their PlayStation 5s. We already know how people are feeling about Xbox because Xbox right now ain't got nothing for us to play on the first party front. Where PlayStation has a bunch of stuff, so we'll talk about that next week. But the one thing I do want to ask. Going back to that interview with Phil Spencer, the year in review for Xbox, there is one thing and I did a video on this. There was one thing that's consistently been standing out to me about everything that Xbox and Phil Spencer has been saying, especially around ZeniMax and Bethesda being purchased. Everything is always the one game that always comes up is StarField. They talk about when they said StarField, they said StarField in Game Pass. Can't wait for StarField. StarField just seems like it's such a buzzword. Of course, it's going to be probably one of the biggest IPs that the Bethesda comes out with because it's probably the one that everybody's looking forward to the most. But we haven't seen anything on this game, and it also goes back to the Bethesda not really showing stuff until it's literally 3 to 4 months out, and then next thing you know, it's here and we're about to play it. But the way they talk about this game, it makes it seem like it's real close, like closer than we think it is. What do you guys think about StarField, and when do we think that game is actually going to release? If you had to guess.
I think StarField will be released next year in 2022. I think it is the bigger IPs, and when I say bigger IPs, like the ones that basically just come out of the Bethesda internal studio wheelhouse, the ones I hate for the most part, but like
right, the actual Bethesda house.
Yeah. But the thing is that it's so hard to tell because Bethesda is not like other publishers where they will, for example, Square Enix will show you a game that ain't gonna be out for like 4 years. Or BioWare and EA, they showed us teaser trailer of the new Mass Effect, and ain't nobody expecting to see that until like 2025, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
Bethesda, we saw it with Fallout 76, Fallout 4. It will be E3 June of a year. Yep. Here we are. Here's the new Fallout coming out in September. What, 3 months? Like, you're showing this game, and it's 3 months away. That's how they roll. So StarField, honestly, it could be, as soon as this deal gets ratified, and all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, and they fully in that Microsoft camp. Boom, StarField coming out in 3 months. And we used to be like, we haven't seen a single screenshot of this game, and you dropping it in 3 months. Yeah. Like that's how they roll. But I think it's just based off of what I have heard about the release schedule of it. I think we'll probably end up getting Arkane Studios' new IP before StarField. Yeah, I think we're going to see Arkane Studios' new IP this year. And it probably will get released later this year. Yeah,
go ahead and dive, because I know that was one of the topics. We could just tie those two together real quick. Go ahead and talk about that while you're talking about StarField.
Yeah, so Arkane Studios has two studios, and one of them is in France. I think it's I forgot the name of the actual city in France. Forgive me.
It's Lyon, right?
I think it might be. Yeah, I think it is Lyon. You're right. It's Lyon, and the other one is in Austin, Texas, which is a lot of studios are in Austin, Texas, because it's like the IT tech hotbed of the Midwest. But they I think the director for the new IP was talking about how they are technically under Microsoft, but not officially like all the way there. But they were just like how nothing has changed. That Arkane, they're still Arkane. They're still who they are. But they usually have like a 3 to 4 year development cycle. And the Arkane Austin studio, their last game, I think, was Prey.
Yeah,
It was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So Prey coming out when it did, that would mean that their new IP should be coming out sometime this year.
Mm-hmm.
Based off, I think came out like in 2017, right? Let me double check when Prey came out.
I think it was for 2017.
Yep, 2017. May 2017 is when Prey came out. So it being 2021, this is right around the time where they will be dropping another game. And they got people from the Dishonored and Prey teams also working on it. And so and we haven't seen anything. But as I said before, that's typical Bethesda. You don't see anything. And then boom, here it is. Here's a game. It's complete. It's almost done. See you next month because it's coming out. You know, I think us seeing Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop was kind of like an outlier compared to how they normally go about things. We really wouldn't see their stuff, you know, before then. Shout out to Sam Tolbert in the chat. Said worth noting Harvey Smith never said they're making a new IP. Said it's a new project or a new game. Okay, so it's a new game, but not necessarily a new IP. So it could be another Prey game.
Could be possible. Dishonored, all we know.
Yeah, or it could be a continuation of Dishonored. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. What you think, E? What you think first about the StarField stuff, and then what do you think about Arkane?
No, I think Slow-Mo is definitely on point with that. I think honestly, kind of after like how the Bethesda 76 is getting late. After how the whole Fallout 76 thing kind of rolled, and again, I think CD Projekt Red gave people a full notebook, on what you don't want to do right now, right? So I think they might definitely be looking to get back to their ways of, tightening things up and having that mystery around what they're doing, especially with StarField, because they know right now StarField has been the one people have really been wanting to see and get their eyes on. And I think they're really going to play that up and definitely not, lose the drama and theater around it, right? And they know how well that went over, like with Fallout. Which one was it? Was it Fallout 4, Slow-Mo, that they kind of said it's going to be was going to release in 3 months or whatever? It
was Fallout 4. Yeah,
Fallout 4.
They did it for Fallout 4 and they did it for Fallout 76.
Right. For Fallout 76.
For both of them.
One went really well. One didn't go too
76 didn't go too well.
No, not at all.
But people talked about how dope that was. They were like, "Are you serious right now? Like, I'm going to be playing Fallout 4 in like 3 months' time. Like, you just announced it." So I think they'll definitely probably do that kind of thing again. But I'm with Slow-Mo. I don't think it's this year.
Yeah.
I think, and I've talked to Sam about this too, and if Sam's still in the chat, I'd like to know if he could throw some stuff back. But my head is kind of telling me that we might be getting, hopefully, and maybe I'm being biased, it might be time for another Dishonored.
Yeah, Sam just said the same thing. He said also worth noting, Arkane is usually the exception to the Bethesda releasing in the same year. Dishonored was announced in 2015, released in 16. Prey was announced in 16, released in 17.
Okay, so we could get an announcement this year, but a release in 2022. Okay.
And I think the biggest thing for them is I think right there, as soon as the acquisition goes through and Xbox can talk about that stuff, I think that's going to be a great week for gamers, because you're going to not only probably get a chance to find out what's going to happen with a lot of these games going forward and where they're going to live at, maybe not all at one time, but you're going to get probably the announcement of a lot of stuff that's being held tight to the vest by Bethesda, because like you said, when you're going through an acquisition, you really just leave everything static. You don't announce anything that's not announced, because those are assets that people don't know about yet. And then once that stuff starts coming out, then, that's all pretty much through Xbox and Microsoft. So I'm just excited. Last year sucked. This year's looking a lot better in some ways, more than others. And we're not going to dig into that whole other thing, but yeah, but that's how I feel about it. I'm just excited. And first of all, this was an amazing episode with you guys. Ejax, as always, even though you're in the state of Florida, you are one of the sane people that live down there in Florida, along with
I try not to make headlines, Forte. I try not to make the headlines. A Florida man.
Yeah, along with some of the amazing people that are in our chat. If you live in Florida, you're in the same lane with E-Jack. At least I hope you are. But yeah, E, tell everybody where they can find you at, sir.
Well, first, let me thank you guys for having me on. You know, I rock with you guys hard. And definitely respect your opinions on everything. So yeah, it's been great being here. Especially with like coming from like yesterday with all the craziness going on. It was good to finally be able to just talk some games and, you know, kick with you guys. But yeah, you can find me Twitter, EC Jackson with an X. And when I'm not there, you can find me on Brat Podcast Wednesday night with you gentlemen. And when I'm not there, you can find me on Gaming Perspective Podcast on our new day, Tuesdays at 8:00.
Absolutely. Look, man, first of all, I love being on shows with you because you are balanced to the whole group, and you make everything run way better than it probably would if you weren't there. So
big facts.
It's we definitely notice when you're not there when we're doing Brap and E got some stuff going on. You know, Enrique gets a little crazy. So
I try to keep him grounded, man.
It's a little crazy, but no, we appreciate you coming by, man, and definitely, you know, that invite is always going to be coming your way whenever you want to come through, whenever we need your perspective on something. So check him out on the Perspective Podcast and everything. You know, follow him on Twitter. I'm gonna have all that stuff linked down in the description for you guys to, you know, catch as quick as you can. My illustrious leader, you know, Slow Mo, he's my leader. If anybody didn't know, Slow Mo leads me. I don't lead Slow Mo. Slow Mo leads me. He's like leading the blind, because half the time, if you let Slow Mo tell you, Forte blind to everything going on. So, you know, Slow Mo, it's been another amazing episode with you, man. It's, you know, I couldn't think of another person to come into 2021 with other than you, and the things you've been doing on your channel, the content you've been putting out, and just the friend that you have become over the course of these 3 years. It's kind of crazy to think that it's been almost 3 years that we've known each other. I couldn't ask for anything else to have a person like you as part of the team, man. But tell everybody where they can find you at, so we can get ready to get you some bug snacks on in the next couple of days.
Man. Yeah, yo, check out my YouTube channel, Slow Mo Backslap. I'm dropping content on my channel at least 3 times a week. Games I'm interested in, games that you may not have heard of sometimes, and games I think that are really like dark horse games I love to feature, as well as just whatever else I'm playing. I do need to start doing some more live streaming. I haven't done that in a long time. So I'm, you know, not bug snacks, of course, but something else, you know, like, you know, something else that I'm playing, you know, once I get the time to, and I'm not like lately, if I'm playing anything, it's like at like 1 a.m. So it's just like, who's up to watch me live stream myself, like falling asleep while I'm playing Cyberpunk, you know, like 30 minutes of me staring at a wall isn't exactly great content. So yeah, but yeah, I love doing the show with you, Forte. Glad to have you as usual. And Forte is correct, man. You are like the voice. Matter of fact, the name I'm using right now, Voice of Reason, really applies to you more than me. But yeah, great show, guys. Appreciate everyone that came out tonight, and y'all have a great night, man.
Yeah, man. It's always good to do this with people that you get along with. Is always great. Check out the Scumcast, you know, every Saturday at 3 p.m. Central. You know, it's actually been on a pretty consistent schedule as of late, because, you know, Luca doesn't get her hair done on Saturdays anymore, it seems. But yeah, check them out over there. You know, whole group of new guys over there, some old, a lot of new, very good show as always. And you know, Luca's always been there for us, so we're always going to shout out Luca when it comes to everything that we do. Shout out to King Thrash in the chat. You know, shout out to you, brother. He says, "What's up, Slow Mo?" Forgot all about
you. Man. What's up, Thrash?
That's okay. Even knowing, you know, I do 100% agree with Thrash when it comes to that Digital Foundry stuff. It's like that man, he be bringing some Digital Foundry stuff to life. I be like, yo, like you gonna let those dudes live? Guess not in this episode, but just keep killing these dudes. I'm like,
I'm gonna do Thrash. I'm gonna do it right. Yeah, look, man, look. Digital Foundry out here lying to y'all. You go on a rant for like
you go on a rant for 45 minutes.
45 minutes. 45 minutes.
You know, and it's not that I don't like Digital Foundry. It's just the fact that they got too much power, and they just be up here lying to people. Shout out to you, Thrash, man. You know, keep doing what you're doing, brother. All the success for you in 2021. And shout out to everybody in the chat. We hit around 37, 38. I don't know the final number was around there. And truly appreciate you guys coming by. We will see you guys next week on Slow Mo Backslash channel for episode 18. And we will see you guys for the next episode of DPS Podcast. You guys have a great week. And make sure you guys stay safe because this country's crazy. And that's all we're going to say about that. We'll talk to y'all later.
Yeah, man. Be safe. Don't do crack.